Yes, buckle your seatbelt.
Hello, all. Welcome to another Rambling Canucks Roundtable review. Today, we're going to review Star Trek TNG The Naked Now. And joining me, as always, is Captain Trek and Vance Major from No Budget Productions. How are we doing, guys?
I'm doing great.
Doing okay. How are you?
Not too bad. Okay, so as always, let's give our brief synopsis of what we thought, and then we'll go a little bit more in detail about certain scenes we liked, certain scenes we didn't like, and then finish it off with our grades and our final thought. So, who wants to go first?
I'll let Vance.
All right, Vance, you're up.
Well, for me, this is this is one of my guilty pleasure episodes. I love it. I can watch this anytime if I'm feeling happy or sad. Like it's just a great episode despite how bad it is. Um, it's one of those episodes where if I'm looking at it critically, it's such a ripoff of the original series, and that's why it doesn't work for me. Um, the thing about it is like when Next Generation first came out, they had intentionally tried to stay away from, they said we're going to stay away from the original series. We don't want to do the original series. It would be blasphemy to even be the original series. And they gave us the Easter egg with Bones and Encounter at Farpoint, and then instantly they do this episode. And I'm like, that's this is just original series. Like, for all the people that were saying, they're just gonna rip off the original series, like, that's exactly what you did here. So they weren't proving the critics wrong. So I feel, me personally, what would have been better for this episode would be to have waited till like maybe the end or mid, maybe 3/4 of the season, get to know the characters better, and then see them like, oh wow, this is Data drunk, this is Yar drunk, this is Picard drunk. Because to have the second episode be all these characters drunk, you don't know the characters yet, so you don't know them acting differently. It's just random people that you really don't know yet acting drunk. However, I really love how fun the episode is, despite the fact that it's not that good. Because as an 8-year-old kid watching this, I was like, this is really funny. This is really fun. So, I mean, who doesn't like to see adults out of control and then a kid saving the ship? To me, as a kid, I was watching that going, yeah, an adult did it, I loved it. So it's a guilty pleasure for me.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. It falls into the "it's so bad it's good" category.
Yeah.
All right, Cap.
Major cheese. Don't get me wrong. I like the episode. I do.
It's a
As
triple
far
cheese
as
pizza with extra cheese.
as far as Wesley, this is the beginning of the.
Yeah. Well, for me, this episode is kind of one of the WTF moments of the TNG era. And I agree with Vance. It's one of those, it's so bad it's good, except for if you start to think about it. If you start to think about it, it all falls apart. but if you don't think about it, you turn the brain off and you just enjoy the show, then it's okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun to be had with this episode. Like, it's all the people acting just crazy and just being silly and fun, and you're almost embarrassed for the actors because you're like, oh man, this must have been really hard for them. Like, this is just almost cringeworthy. But when you start to think about it, you're like, wait a second, a son is starting to go, and you see a rock headed toward the ship exactly in the path of the ship. Like, that doesn't make sense. So you have really big plot holes like that where you're like, that shouldn't be the way it is. But when you turn your brain off, you're like, yeah, it makes complete sense. It's like you said, WTF.
Yeah, or Data being affected at all.
Well, and that's one of those things where it's like I feel as if we had waited till maybe 3/4 into the season, they would have established that aspect of yes, now he wouldn't be affected, or it would have made it more interesting the fact that he got affected. Um, Again, the fact that we're so early into all these characters, we don't really know. But had this been a season 4 episode, Data wouldn't have been affected at all. You're absolutely right in that regard. It's just so early to tell with any of these characters. Like when I think I brought up during the watch when all of us were watching it, like Troy walks up to Riker and she's like, Bill. And I was like, that to me is, having watched so much Next Gen, that takes me out of the moment, because I'm like, you never again call him Bill. Why would you do that here? Like, it's just, we don't know any of these characters enough to know why this is, a fish out of water moment. It could have been just as fun as Star Trek 4, knowing how these characters acted, but we don't. So it's just a guilty pleasure instead of being a really good fish out of water moment.
Yeah. And I mean, for the most part, I mean, they find the ship, they do, they go aboard, everybody's dead. They, of course, they do the decontamination. There we go. I can speak English, I promise. Aboard when they transport back up, and then they get checked out, and then the stupidest part of this whole show for me is, okay, so Crusher tells Picard that she's going to isolate Geordi to sickbay. By isolate, she means I'm going to lay him on the bed with no force field, no containment field, and leave all the doors to sickbay unlocked. And I'm going to leave him while I go into a totally different section of sickbay, unattended. But don't worry, he's quarantined to sickbay.
I'm gonna leave him 2 feet from the door, unlocked, and walk out of the room. Yeah.
I have that is mind breaking to me. Because like, you just told your CO you're isolating him to sickbay, but you're not isolating him to sickbay in any physical way, shape or form. And this is before she's infected.
and there's no staff, there's no security, there's nothing there. Like, all you have is harsh words, or actually more comforting words, to keep him there in the room. That's all you have. So obviously he wanders off and goes and finds a kid and gets him infected. And it's like, what? This is really a creepy ship. Like, this is just not how you should be doing this episode. So yeah, not a very good written episode, for how you should do things. I don't know what they were thinking.
No, but that's the part that really breaks it for me. I mean, Data getting infected, I can kind of accept, but it's still a kind of grr moment. Because if this had been season 3, season 4, Data would have been impervious. It wouldn't have affected Data at all. And Data would have been the one to save the day, because it would have been Data that would have been unaffected. Just like on and I can't remember right now, when the whole crew falls asleep and Data's the only one that isn't affected.
Clues.
Yes. Yeah. So Data's the only one that isn't affected. That would have been the same case in this one, I believe. If this would have been a later in the seasons, Data would have been the one to save the crew, maybe with Wesley Crusher's help, but it would have been Data who'd been unaffected and been able to save the day in more than just I put chips into a computer fast.
Well, and not to mention the competency of the engineers. You know, the chief engineer gets called to the bridge, and then the assistant chief engineer, he gets called to sick bay, and instead of the multitude of other engineers that are on that ship, he leaves Wes in charge. Like, what?
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and again, before he even gets infected, like, again, the competency of this crew before they even get infected, it's mind-boggling. It's
We're
staggering
starting
how.
to understand why they didn't make it to season 2.
Yeah,
They got fired.
how did they even get to this star? Like,
Did you pay someone for your rank? Did you find it in a Cracker Jack box? Just please do explain to me how in the hell you tie your shoes in the morning, because it just, there are so many problems that have to happen for everything to fall into place.
yeah,
For Wesley to be able to gain control, for everything else, it's mind-boggling. Like, okay, the chief engineer thinking Picard's called her to the bridge. Okay, I can buy that one. But then, yeah, don't worry about it. I can take care of. I can take care of the engineering. I'm not in Starfleet. I have no rank. But I can do it. Okay, yeah, that sounds like a phenomenal plan. I honestly don't have a backup engineer in here at all in engineering. It's mind-blowing.
yeah.
But like I said, if you turn your brain off, you'll laugh a lot. But once you start really looking at it, it's like, wait a second, who in their right mind would do that in the first place?
Yeah.
It's just like this whole episode was a case of one character does something very, very, very stupid that puts the entire crew in danger, and then another crew member does something even more stupid to put them even more danger.
It was plot contrivance for plot contrivance for plot contrivance for plot contrivance, and the whole thing is like, to me it felt like a script that just nobody had script polished, and everyone's like, yep, it's good, let's go. Yep, it's good, let's go. And it's like nobody's looked at it and was like, hey, this isn't very good. And again, I like the episode. I'm gonna have to, despite as much as I like it, I have to be really critical and say, it doesn't make a lot of sense. You're ripping off. Granted, history repeats itself sometimes, so you got to overlook that and say, okay, that's fine. But even from an in continuity perspective, your logic is just not there. So it's just you want it to happen because it happens. Screw logic, let's go. And when you have to turn your brain off, that's a sign of a weak script, and it could have been better. And I think it would have been better in a later position on the chart of episodes. So as much of a guilty pleasure, I think they dropped the ball there, and I think this episode, as much as I like it, could have really doomed the series, and people could have really tuned out and been like, nope, if all you're going to do is just this, what are we going to do next? Have Picard and Riker fight on a alien planet with sharp knives like Kirk and Spock did? I mean, they really could have attacked this. If this was in the day of the internet, this show would have been torpedoed from the start.
Oh yeah, it would have. Things would have been on fire.
I honestly think that it could have been a good show if you just took the factor of paying homage to the original series, which was done with Deep Space Nine. They did an episode really well, paying homage to the original series. This, however, was not done well. And having Wesley Crusher being there to save the day. Again, beginning of the end. But I never liked him anyhow.
Yeah, and okay, here's one thing. I another one of the points that bothered me. Let's see what everybody else thinks. Does anybody else find it odd that Riker's the one that figures this thing out? That it's Riker that remembers that it was on somewhere in Starfleet, not Data?
No,
That minuscule of information. To me, it just seems like something Data would have said later on in the series, not Riker.
no, because for me, as much of an encyclopedia of information he has so much. Like you can't expect him to. You can't expect him to look at something and understand and analyze. And you also have to understand this is also very early in his development. So maybe Data in Nemesis would have been like, hey, this is the exact same circumstance. However, given that he has all this information, I don't think he would have. So you kind of need that human ingenuity to kind of look at this and be like, that's kind of suspicious. Because Data, at this early development is kind of a walking toaster.
Yeah.
So I don't, because again, he's always kind of tilting his head and just curious about humanity. So I don't really, to me, it's not. No, I do find it funny that he's kind of the historical buff in this episode, where that's never really brought back again in any future episode. He's always the jazz singer and ladies' man.
And that's why it strikes me as odd looking back, right?
Right.
Looking back on it is like, well, that's out of character for Riker.
Well, but it's kind of out of character for all of them, considering it's never really anybody's. So to me, it's just kind of like, somebody needs to know. Might as well be Riker. But what do you think, Captain Trek?
Yeah, I think the only thing that really, the only thing that really can be said about this episode was it was a turn your brain off and just enjoy, because it doesn't make sense.
As long as it wasn't Wesley that was like, hey, Captain Kirk had the same adventure, you're happy with it.
Oh, yeah.
If that had happened, I probably would have gone, screw this show.
You would have went all Michael Burnham on him. Anyway. All right. Well, I don't think there's much you have to dissect in this episode. It was pretty much
there's not much depth here. No.
So what we'll do is we'll go around, we'll give our final thoughts and our grade for this one, and I'll this time we'll change the rotation. Oh wait, do you have something to add before we do that?
There was something that is kind of played for laughs, that you don't really, it kind of struck me when I said there's not much depth here, but I think that maybe taking a second out to kind of talk about it. There is the sex scene between Data and Yar, where you could look at that and be like, oh, that's kind of a dirty moment, but like honestly, that's an important moment for Data's development.
Yes.
It's brought back in season 2. In A Measure of a Man, where he says that him and Yar was intimate, and he actually almost didn't say that because of what this moment meant to him. And to me, it shows that it was kind of a growth moment for him, no pun intended. But what could have been just more of a hearty har, look what we did here, that's part of his growth as a character, and it does have some kind of ramifications for a character who has no emotions. It has some ramifications for what I would say is, no, he kind of does have emotions, because he cared about her a great deal, enough that he wasn't going to say anything at a trial where his very existence was there.
Yeah, true.
And I think that's very sweet. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it is nice that they do bring that. They pay that off later on, and it wasn't just left as a, haha, we did it in the second episode. Ha. But yeah, that's a nice aspect to it. But to me, it's still, I don't know. It just the episode. If you, like I say, if you turn your brain off, it's okay. The minute you turn your brain on, you're in trouble. Cap.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely, brain off episode is. Yeah, for enjoyment, I'd probably say a 5. If you think about it, probably a 3.
That's fair. What about you, Vance?
Well, there was an old commercial back in the day where I think it was for Life cereal, where he's like, the adult in me does this, and then the little kid in me likes it, So I feel like the the adult in me says it's a 1, but the little kid in me says it's a 9 because it's so much fun.
It's funny, yeah.
It is. It's great fun, and I watch this show in the same spirit in which I watch like Batman and Robin. I know what I'm in for. I know I'm not going to like it, but god dang it, I enjoy it so freaking much. And it's like it's one of those ones where it's like I can do my drawings, I can build whatever with my ships, I can script write, I can do whatever, and I can put this on in the background and not have to worry about shit. I missed that really deep intellectual moment. It's 9 times out of 10 I probably just watch Troy walking through, or trying to hit on Riker again, or something stupid with Picard, trying to bone up Beverly. It's like so I don't miss much, but I enjoy it. It's fun. So I'm of two minds. So
yeah, and on that angle, I'd put it, if I'm turning my brain off, it's a 6. It's funny. If my brain's on, it's about a 4. And I was gonna go 3, and then you reminded me of them bringing that back up between Yar and Data, so at least there was some substance that paid off later.
Yeah,
so
that's the
I'll
thing.
bump it up to a 4.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like if you take it in context of how like the overarching story is, like it gives better, and it makes this a little bit better of an episode. But by itself, it's like no, it's a gimmick, and it's not a very good one.
Yeah, absolutely. And but yeah, so I think we'll end it there. So the description. Yeah, we can tell I'm awake. Captain Trek and No Budget Productions channels are in the description. Please like, share, and subscribe this video. Please subscribe to Captain Trek and to No Budget Productions if you haven't already. And I want to thank you guys for coming on the panel again. It's always fun.
Oh, definitely. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And until next time, folks, take her easy.